time he locked me in containers with his shipment of kids. There were kids in there that didn't speak English. There were kids that were sick and that were already dying. There were babies. There were babies that were 6 years old, and I'll never forget them just crying, and everybody was just staring at them. Everybody was just staring at each other. Nobody knew whether or not to move. I was freaked out. There were kids in there from Africa, from Mexico, and there was a bunch of trucks.
I don't talk much about 2010. It's not that I don't remember it. It's that I can't forget. Every time I think about it, it feels like it happened yesterday. Sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night, soaked in sweat, with the feeling that I'm still trapped in that hellish tunnel. The smells, the cold, the darkness, they still haunt me. That year, I took a job for a secret project for Shawn P. Diddy Combs. Yes, that Diddy. And trust me, it's not something I talk about with people. You can't talk about these things until you've processed them, and I haven't. Back then, I didn't ask questions. I was just trying to make it through the month and pay the bills. The job came through my cousin, Orion. Orion knew how to make quick money. He always had some shady deal going on, but he had a way of making it seem like the best move, even when you knew it wasn't. One day he called me. There's a job in New Jersey, under Diddy's property. They're building underground rooms, a lot of money, no paperwork. No paperwork? There was something about this that grabbed my attention. It seemed like a trap. One of those jobs where if you ask too many questions, you might just disappear. But I was behind on rent. My car was falling apart, and honestly, I had nothing to lose. So I said yes. We showed up on a cold January morning. The place was huge. A mansion only the rich and powerful could afford. I felt wrong just being there. There were guards everywhere, cameras, even snipers on the roof. I'd never seen anything like it. They checked our IDs at the gate, and immediately I felt like I was in over my head. But I kept my head down. I knew how it worked. Don't ask questions, do the job, and leave. But what was really going on in that mansion? And more importantly, what had I just agreed to do? They led us in through a narrow road at the back of the property. From the first step, I knew something was wrong. The atmosphere was strange, like something bad was about to happen. But we had no choice. We were told to follow, and we did. Then I saw it, the tunnel. The air was heavy and damp. Every breath felt harder. The tunnel seemed endless, and the dim light made everything even more unsettling. The walls were thick, made of new concrete, like it had been built to hide something or keep people out who got too close. Tom, the foreman, never said much. He chewed on a toothpick and spoke in a low voice, like he hadn't slept in days. "We're building 3 rooms," he said, without explaining anything. "Do what I tell you and don't ask questions." But I felt like something was wrong. The more we walked, the tighter the air seemed around my chest. Every step took us farther from safety, like we were being pushed towards something dangerous. A chill ran down my spine, but part of me couldn't stop wondering, what was really in this tunnel? The second room was different from everything I'd seen before. Smaller, but something was off. Chains, huge steel chains, anchored to the floor and walls as if they were meant to keep something, or someone trapped. I've worked enough in construction to know when something's not right, and that room felt built for something much darker than they'd told me. I asked Tom, "What's this room for?" But he just shrugged. "Do your job," he said. "They'll pay you." But those words didn't reassure me. I felt like they were hiding something from me. The chains covered every inch of the walls. At first I thought it was for some kind of combat training, but there were no weights or gym equipment, just chains. Too many chains. Then I noticed the lockers. They weren't normal, they were industrial, with thick locks, like they were meant to store something really dangerous. Everything about it gave me the feeling they were hiding a secret I didn't want to discover. Tom kept saying everything was fine, but the more I looked at that room, the more it seemed like they were planning something unsettling. What if this room wasn't just a construction site, but the hiding place for an awful secret. A week later, we reached the third room. What should have been just another day of work turned into something deeply unsettling. They brought in huge metal containers. At first, I thought they were just boxes. But when one of them was opened, I felt my blood run cold. Inside were dead animals. Cats, dogs, a deer, all in various stages of decomposition, submerged in a murky fluid. The smell was unbearable, cutting through the masks we were wearing, making me feel like I was about to lose control. But that sight was even worse. The floating bodies sitting in a solution that made them even more disgusting. A horror that made you wonder what the hell was going on here. "What the hell is going on?" I asked Tom, looking for an explanation. "Don't think about it, we get paid, we leave." But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every corner of that room screamed that something was deeply wrong, something beyond imagination. And as my mind tried to ignore the horror, my eyes couldn't help but notice the photos scattered on the floor. Photos of politicians and celebrities, images I never expected to see in a place like this. They weren't just any photos. They were candid, real shots of famous faces apparently involved in all of this. Who were these people really? And what were they doing in this cursed place? The questions multiplied. The fear grew. And I knew I was digging too deep to turn back now. That's when we found the mural on the wall. Carved directly into the cement, the symbols looked like they came out of a nightmare. Pentagrams, strange, sinister geometric shapes. But the creepiest part? The blood. Fresh. Abundant. Everywhere. It was like someone had marked the wall with their own terror. And in a dark corner there were black boxes. Full of photos. Dozens of photos. Some of the names were familiar. But it was when I moved a pizza box that terror hit me. About 20 boxes, all wrapped in clear tape. But they were too heavy, too suspicious to just be pizza. One of the workers tried to lighten the tension, joking, "What, is Diddy throwing a pizza party?" But no one laughed. The silence was thick. The tension in the air was unbearable. We all felt something was wrong. Why those boxes? What were they really hiding? Every moment that passed, the fear grew. But by then it was too late to back out. Once the job was done, they paid us in cash. No questions asked. But those symbols, those images, those pizza boxes stayed with me. Every night when I closed my eyes, I saw the walls, the blood, the dead animals, the sound of chains rattling, the terror creeping into my mind. What had I really seen? I know I should have walked away, but curiosity consumed me. A month later, I started looking into Diddy, desperately trying to figure out what I'd gotten involved in. Each month that passed, I discovered something more disturbing. Diddy threw these parties for the elite. Politicians, actors, businessmen, people who could change your life with a single phone call. But what was really happening behind those closed doors? The rumors that circulated after each event were chilling. Strange behavior, secret activities, things no one should ever know. I realized the rooms we'd built weren't just hiding something. They were a part of a much bigger system. Every discovery scared me more, but I couldn't stop. What was really happening in those golden palaces? I had to know the truth, even if it cost me my sanity. What I had uncovered could destroy everything, but by then it was too late. The truth was darker than anyone could imagine. A week after we finished our work, Tom called me. His voice, weak and trembling, sounded like he hadn't slept in days. "Buddy, have you seen the news?" he asked, almost in a whisper. My heart skipped a beat. There was something strange in his tone, a fear I'd never heard before. "What news?" I replied, trying to calm myself as my brain raced, trying to understand what was happening. "They're talking about Diddy," he said. "A big party he's throwing for politicians, celebrities, the usual powerful people. But listen, man, that tunnel, those rooms we worked on? We weren't building something normal. There's something serious going on up there." I could hear the panic in his voice, but I tried to stay calm. "Forget about it, Tom," I said. "We got paid, we're out. I don't want anything more to do with this." But inside, something didn't sit right. Tom's words kept ringing in my head. That tunnel, those rooms, the chains, the blood, the weird symbols on the walls. My mind couldn't stop circling around those unsettling details. There was something wrong, something huge they were hiding from us. I couldn't ignore it, so I started searching. Nothing too obvious, just a quick Google search to figure out what those rooms were for. It was easy to find stories online talking about his parties, the high-profile guests, the rumors. The stories I found were shocking. Secret parties, politicians, actors, billionaires, people who could ruin you with a single phone call. And after every event, disturbing rumors would surface. Chilling tales about what went on behind those closed doors. Abuse of power, strange behavior, unsettling secrets. Every word made me feel sick to my stomach. The feeling that the rooms we worked on were connected to all of this wouldn't leave me. What were we really building? Now I can't help but wonder how many others like us have seen something they should never have seen. A month had passed and everything seemed calm. No strange calls, no suspicious cars outside my building. But deep down, I felt like something was wrong. Something was about to happen. One evening, I was working late, later than usual, in the warehouse I rented to make some extra cash. It was a night like any other, almost too quiet, the kind of night that makes you feel like the whole world is holding its breath. Then, around midnight, I stepped outside for a cigarette. An involuntary movement, but that gesture would change everything. That's when I saw it. A black SUV, perfectly parked across the street, right where no car should have been. It wasn't just any SUV. No, it was the same model I'd seen at Diddy's estate. A chill ran down my spine. It wasn't a coincidence, I knew it. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was just another car. But then the driver's window slowly rolled down. A man in a suit, motionless, staring at me with cold eyes. He didn't say a word, didn't even acknowledge me. But those eyes, it felt like he could see straight through me. My heart pounded. The fear froze me, but I couldn't move. In an instant I wanted to run, but I didn't. The terror of what I knew, of what was coming, kept me rooted there. I dropped the cigarette and ran inside. But when I came back out an hour later, the SUV was gone. But the fear of being watched stayed inside me, like a shadow that wouldn't go away. The truth was clear. It wasn't over. This was just the beginning. And who was that man? I couldn't understand what was happening. Was I paranoid, or was I getting a warning? The silence around me felt heavy. I couldn't stop thinking about that SUV and the man in the suit who stared at me intensely. The following days, I tried to live like normal, but something was wrong. I felt followed. Cars parked outside my house, strangers staring at me with two strange eyes. Every time I went out, I had the feeling I was being watched. I didn't understand what was going on, but I felt something was off. And then the calls came. No number, just silence. Every time I answered, there was just emptiness. It gave me chills. It happened every 2 days, like clockwork. I answered, tried to say something, and the line would drop. Until that evening, I answered. My voice trembled, but I tried to stay calm. "Who is this?" I asked, trying not to betray my fear. Silence. Then a low laugh, a whisper. "You should be." The line went dead. I stood there with the phone in my hand, my heart pounding. I couldn't believe what had just happened. Who was playing with me? And what did they want? I couldn't keep living like this. Every day felt like a ticking time bomb. I knew it was only a matter of time before they decided I knew too much. That night I made a decision. It wasn't a plan. Hell, it wasn't even thought through. But I couldn't wait any longer. I took a drink to calm my nerves. Then I found myself driving back to New Jersey, to the place that had haunted me for too long. When I got to the estate, it was well past midnight. It looked exactly the same. Huge, isolated, surrounded by high fences, cameras everywhere. It looked like a prison, but I wasn't there to go in. I didn't want to go back into that tunnel. I just needed to see it again. I had to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. I parked far away and approached the edge of the property, staying hidden in the shadows. My heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through my veins, but I couldn't stop. I had to know what was really going on inside. And then I saw them, 2 men in black carrying the same pizza boxes we'd seen in the tunnel. They were heading toward the same side door we used to sneak in and out. My stomach tightened. What were they doing? I crouched down, barely breathing, watching as they unlocked the door and disappeared inside. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had come too far to back out now. I was about to discover something that could change everything, but I couldn't stop. I had to know, and what was I about to discover? It could be more terrifying than I ever imagined. I wanted to run. I should have. My heart was racing. I felt a terror I couldn't control. I had to find out what was in that box. I didn't know why, but I couldn't leave without an answer. They were inside for only a few minutes, but when they came out, the box was gone. That's when I realized it wasn't a coincidence. There was something more, something I was starting to understand, but didn't want to know. From that moment, everything changed. Every time I went out, I felt watched. I started seeing black SUVs everywhere. Every time I crossed one, my stomach twisted. Were they following me? Was I just paranoid, or was someone really behind me? Then the calls came. No number, just silence. And then that laugh, low and unsettling, that froze my blood. I wasn't crazy. They were watching me, and they wouldn't stop until I did exactly what they wanted. Who are these people, and what do they really want from me? One night, everything changed. A black SUV stops in front of my apartment. The driver stares at me with a blank expression, as if he knows exactly who I am. I knew they were coming for me. It wasn't a matter of if, but when they would decide I knew too much. I thought about running, changing my life, disappearing, but where would I go? Eventually they'd find me, so I decided to stay. But now, every day that passes, I feel like I'm getting closer to the truth no one wants me to discover. The rumors about Diddy's parties never leave my mind. I can't ignore them anymore. I can't forget what I saw in that tunnel, what I was building, what was happening behind those closed doors. And I'm not alone. There are others who've seen too much and don't want to stay silent anymore. The truth about Diddy and what happens behind those walls is closer than you think. When it comes out, the world will be shocked. That day is coming. And when it does, no one will be ready. I'll be ready, but when it all explodes, there will be no way out.